We could do a tier list of the floors. What do I feel about the floors? Um, so, let's see. How do we feel about the floors? Um, so the floor sets, I kind of think so. Having done this, as many times as I have, when I'm going into a floor set, I have a certain level of excitement, or I'm rolling my eyes, or I'm dreading it. So I feel like the first floor set is reasonably fun. Uh, Wait, can I do this? Okay, good. It's reasonably fun. I think the main thing it's missing, and where it actually falls behind, like even the first set of Heaven on High or Palace, is there's no problem enemies. Like on the very first floor of Heaven on High, you can get killed because there's stuff that puts a 30% vuln on you. There's stuff that puts a heavy on you. You got to respect that. There's a mob that has a tank buster that I think you can outrange, but uh, you can't line of sight. So there's threats. Um, Palace on 1 to 10 has the wasp that can final sting, and so you have to be careful pulling it. And if you pull one, you usually focus it down if you're on a low damage job. So I feel like there's a lack of threat, but unlike EO, there's not a whole bunch of annoying crap on these floors, and so I never feel like I'm like really slowed down or really bogged down or I'm really sweating. And for the start of a deep dungeon, I like that. I just wish there was at least one problem enemy or two. Um, with that in mind, 11 to 20 is the same thing. And so if I'm willing to give 1 to 10 a pass because it is the first floor set, 11 to 20 is just a repeat of the same thing. There's nothing that's really dangerous here. There's nothing treacherous. There's nothing that's going to kill me. So, like, I don't have a lot of excitement going into it. It feels very eh. After that, 21 to 30, it's a little bit fun again. It does have bigger AoEs, scarier AoEs to dodge. It has one problem enemy in the Cyanid that does the parasitism cast, so you have one thing that you have to be careful of. So that's like the final Sting Wasp in Palace. I do think it could be a little spookier. It could have some stuff that's a little more threatening, but overall it's fine. Um, I don't hate being there. Um, Now, the next set, I really hate this set. 31 to 40, I detest this set. It's not fun to big pull for me because you have too many monsters that have really long cast bars, and you're trying to do a big pull, and you've got all these mobs that are stopping to tie their shoes in the corridors. You've got the tentacle ladies, you've got the sphinxes that do the petrify, you've got the big statue guys that like to stop and be constipated while they do their cast bar. There's just so much on this set that's really annoying. You also have the guys that the forgiven perversions that have the unto dust enrage, which is huge. It's a huge AoE. I don't like that they spam it when they get to low HP. Um, for whatever reason, it seems like most monsters with enrage will just spam cast it, and I don't think that's really interesting design wise. So I just find them really annoying. I find it's really easy to duty fail to them if you happen to line of sight their cast wrong, which feels bad, especially when it looks like you did line of sight it just fine. There are also some enemies on this set that feel like you can't line of sight their AoEs, and I'm not a huge fan of that in general. So this is the set where when I'm pushing a new file, I just have a lot of inertia. I don't want to go in there. Um, let's see, 41 to 50. I believe this is the set with the turtles. Oh man, the turtles. Uh, ooh. What do I think about this set? Um, it's got the turtles, the petrifrages, so the big clay golems that do the drawing. It does have an interesting patrol. The Triffid that does the cone in front, then immediate cone behind. Those guys are fun. I like that. Um, but the turtles have that same issue of being really annoying for doing a big pull. They also, it feels like because their hitbox is so big, that their sight cone is really wide, and it feels like it's really hard to sneak around them sometimes, which makes them even more annoying. The fact that you can de-aggro them just by running away from them, you don't even need like a super sprint votive, it just makes this kind of an annoying set. It might be weighted by the turtles. I don't detest it, but it is definitely annoying. Um, Next set. 51 to 60. This set is interesting because like the early part of the set, there's so much stuff that you can big pull, and that feels great. There's one problem enemy in the form of the bird. There is the drake that has the damage reflection, so it's a little bit dangerous. But you know, if you're a physical job, then you just make sure that's not your main target of your physical autos. And I really do appreciate the design choice of making them glow when they have their buff that will damage you. So that is great. It's not a boring set. I would say this is a fairly fun set. Um, yeah, I don't mind being here. Um, One of the weird things, let's say this, Leather Deep Dungeons, 51 to 60 is the set that is known, right, for being um the debuff heavy set. And what that means in Palace is when the debuffs appear, sometimes there's mobs that go from really difficult, really fine to pull, like you'll bully them, to things that you don't want to pull. And that's interesting. That makes Palace really interesting. What happens here is actually the opposite. Uh, because like the Yetis, the big brown Yetis, they have this draw-in effect. But because anti-knockback is a really common debuff on this set, they go from something that's annoying to pull to being completely nerfed. So it does kind of make it fun, but the debuffs are not working against you like they should. So that's a bit of a problem. I think that they really needed to do something to think through that. Because 51 to 60 should be the debuff hell set, and we need more debuffs. We need more hell. 61 to 70. Oh, 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 6170. You know, it was really fun the first time I got here, and I had to deal with the chameleons. But having to deal with the chameleons over 21 times, I don't like them anymore. I really don't. I do not like the chameleons. Some of the later mobs on the set are interesting. The Talos is kind of fun. The Forgiven Riot, I very much respect. The Grudge, which is the scorpion that does the line AoE with an enrage. That one, it's one of those mobs where it's like, look, it doesn't enrage, but like, it just spams it if you stop it. That kind of sucks. Like, at least have it like try to cast at you one more time with its line AoE. Other interesting mobs on the set, you've got the Forgiven Imparity, which is the stone golem that does the isle drop and rock slide. Interesting mob. He's proximity, so you have to deal with it. It feels a little cheap that you can stun it though. But overall, let's see. Oh, the queen bees, those things. They're like the non-patrol version of the scorpion. Why do so many things do line AoEs? Is the cactuses do cactus? Okay, cactus is a good mob. Cactus is interesting because of its haste. In fact, I feel like cactus should haste itself as soon as it's pulled. If you get like cactus on a gloom floor, oh man, that thing hurts. Gosh, okay. The first part of the set is annoying, but interesting for some pulls. The second part of the set is definitely more interesting. Although I don't like that the Basilisk's stone gaze is not a true gaze. Oh, is this set more annoying than it is interesting? Yes. I think the thought of going into the set and knowing I have to deal with chameleons is annoying. And it's like, they're not even hard. They're just irritating. I had a floor once that I flighted, and the start room was adjacent to 3 rooms. Each room had 1 mob in it, and a patrol had come through, so I had gotten like 4 kills. I needed 1 more to open the key, but there were no mobs left in the adjacent rooms. And I was like, just because I don't see them doesn't mean there's not a chameleon. So I actually had to hit safety and go running through some of these rooms to try to find a chameleon, and I didn't. So annoying set. That's the conclusion. 71 to 80. The set is, I think I always look forward to the set. This is the landmine set. This is the set where you have the Stone Eater Patrol, which I think is one of the best mobs in this dungeon, because it doesn't do any AoEs. It just pounces on you, it knocks you back, and it puts a poison on you. And that's awesome, because that means this monster is there to harass you when you're trying to fight something else. And if you had 2 on you at once, that super sucks. It's going to try to push you into traps. It's going to try to push you into AoEs that might be going off. It's just a good mob. It feels like a mob that could be in Heaven on High or Palace as well. It's designed with that old Deep Dungeon mindset of, this hurts. It does some dangerous things. You have to respect it. And almost for that patrol alone, I think this is great. I don't particularly like the big blue alligators, the Forgiven Spites that do the donut and circle. I think they're like more boring versions of chimeras. It is a little boring that Sandworm and the T-Rex are the same thing, but one is sound and one is sight. They just both do circles. It's almost like they should have something else in their moveset and just don't for some reason. It's weird that the Forgiven Dissension, which is like the big like rock behemoth, that it's the same as the Bulbasaur from the previous set, but it doesn't have bafflement bulb, so it's like an easier Bulbasaur. I tend not to be a big fan of out of combat AoE casters like Forgiven Corruption, but because the visibility in this set is so good, you can basically always see them, with a couple of exceptions if they're around a wall somewhere. I don't mind that so much. I also really, really appreciate that they glow when they're casting. I think that is a much appreciated upgrade. Yeah, this set's just got a bunch of interesting monsters. I'm always excited to go in here and do some landmines and just have a good time. 8190. 8190, this is an interesting set because it is where you're trying to conserve your resources, your wipes in particular, to make the last set as easy as possible, at least if you're going for a clear and not scoring. If you're scoring, you have other concerns in mind. The patrols are oppressive sometimes. This is where I like to dump my flights on like 87 through 89 most of the time. Unless I have a very good reason not to flight those floors, is because there's so much irritating shit on those sets. Like the early part of the set's got the gremlins, which are annoying because they're the one reason to use purification in the entire dungeon. The rider patrols are interesting because they're proximity, so they're a nuisance, but their line AoE doesn't do anything. So I feel like there's like something missing there. And a lot of DPS jobs can just kill them before they even do Storm Slash after their knockbacks. There are some scary monsters, basically anything on the set that says Dark 2, like the Cubis or the Troubadours later on. Terrifying. But then there's a bunch of stuff that's like very, very easy. Archdemon just as a cone. The imp just does a targeted circle and then a gap closer circle. Problematic stuff, I would say the succubus patrol. The fact that the orange marker functions the way it does, where you can get a pyretic without making any mistakes of your own, feels bad. I do like having to line of sight stuff. I think that's fun. I think it's fun having monsters on this set that do gazes, because you have to deal with that. But having a janky monster like the succubus is, I don't know, it feels like it's a little undercooked. If changing your facing direction can kill you, so I have an issue there. Humbabas are terrifying. The lions that do their out of combat casts are pretty scary, especially in treasure rooms. Humbaba's design is interesting just because the tells for it are good. You can see the flying text to count how many times you've been hit. And the punches are a new mechanic for this deep dungeon, but they're not as scary as Shinzei in Heaven on High. And, you know, that's kind of a high bar to be as scary as Shinzei. But where am I at? I would say this is mostly an annoying floor set. And I think it's deserving this because it's so annoying. I will go to 0 flights to not have to deal with some of the shit on this set. And then the final set, if you're playing for a clear, so you're conserving wipes to get to this for this set, and you're maximizing how many floors you can wipe. This set is a Carnival Clown Show, so it's a little bit difficult to say where to place it because most of the time you're not fighting it, and because of that, I think it's boring. Like, there is a level of fun to gaming your Palmanders so that you don't have to fight everything. But at the same time, it would be more interesting to have to fight. And I think Deep Dungeon is rewarding when you fight tooth and nail to get out. That is what makes Heaven on High nail biting. It's what makes Palace nail biting. Just gaming your wipe supplies so that you don't have to fight anything on this set, or you fight 1 or 2 floors tops. That feels like it should be something that happens very rarely in Deep Dungeon. Like, being able to get to the last set, like, for example, if you're able to get to 91 plus in Heaven on High and you have 3 Petrifies and 3 Magicites, that's amazing. You must have had a really good run. But you don't expect that most of the time, because you expect the floors to have baited your wipes, and Magicites are not common. Petrifies, you might find 1%. So overall, I think the fact that 91 to 100 drops a lot of wipes and feels like it's designed for you to wipe makes it a boring final set. It's not really too much more intimidating than I guess 11 to 20. And I guess that's where I put this set. Is 71 to 80 feels the most like Old Deep Dungeon. But I guess this is where I land. So let's see. How about bosses? I want to talk about bosses. Let's talk about bosses. Alright, boss music. Okay, I have a lot of feelings about these bosses. Let's see. Put them in order. 5, 6. Alright. How do I feel about these bosses? The bush. The bush is fun for me. This boss was killing people day 1, right and left, when you didn't have any ether pool because you were farming it. You're solo. the ads were just murdering people. You basically needed bark bomb. In reality, you do not need bark bomb for this boss on any job. You can take it out on any job you want. You just have to budget your AoE resources for killing the ads, or killing most of them, and that makes it fun. That makes it interesting to me. In that respect, I would compare it to something like the 120 boss in Palace, the plant that's got the wasp ads. Different jobs have to figure out how to deal with those wasps, and that's fun. That's interesting. It does feel like it's a resource check very early on, and I don't necessarily mind resource checks in Deep Dungeon. I don't mind them early either. A lot of people feel like it's a bark bomb check, but it's really not. So yeah, it's fun figuring out how to solve the ads. I like that part about it. After the ads, the boss doesn't really do anything. You can run around with 5 bone stacks from standing in the bad. It's fine. It's just make sure the ads die, and that's the puzzle, and that's all right. I don't mind that, and I guess why I like this boss is that analogy to Palace is that like it's the ads that are dangerous. It's not the boss itself. Although even the 120 boss will kill you if you stand in the bad. So, I mean, this could definitely be scarier. It could be meaner, basically, or have something else going on in its rotation. Hmm. But yeah, I like it. It's fun. The 20 boss. Wow, this boss is pretty boring. Um, how do I feel about this? Let's see. Portrait images? No. Yeah, is it annoying? Is it boring? It's it's boring. It's really hard to die to this guy. It's not hard to die to the bush if you do it wrong. It's really hard to die to him. I think that the easiest way to die to this boss is like for after you've seen it once is if you get a bad puddle pattern, and that happens sometimes. But otherwise, you should basically never die to this boss, I think. Like sometimes it just put the yellow puddles down during its bind mechanic in a really mean way, and you have to eat one. But you just use steel, and it's like you're not really needing to budget steel for anything anyway, so just use it. When you get to this boss, and you don't have to worry about that. It's just there's nothing going on. You know, I could even put this back to the drawing board because it's like it's that boring. But I'm just gonna put it for boring because I don't think it's broken. I just think it's boring. Was it this guy? 30 boss. Reasonably fun. I have a good time with this guy. I think he's not terribly threatening. Generally, I think the main way he'll kill you is if you do not respect the chaser mechanic. But yeah, there's a lot of movement going on. He's pretty fun. I don't mind him. He does have quite a bit of hit points though, so if you're trying for a speed run on the set, sometimes you are pressed to ferry him if you're on like a support job or something. Man, the whale, boss 40. Do something else. This boss is so. It doesn't do any. I don't know if I've ever died to this boss. I don't know if you can die to this boss. His ads are like compared to 10 boss. 10 boss has got everything over on this boss. It has an ad phase that you have to respect. Like the whale ads don't do anything. It feels like his water spout mechanic should have like a third color that can happen sometimes, or maybe something cool like the whales do. Like the whales don't all do the same color, so it's not always a knockback sequence. Something it could be like a knockback that occurs and a deformation, and you have to make sure you get pushed away from the deformation. There's all kinds of ways you can make this a little bit more interesting than it is. But mostly I think its attack script needs to be longer. It's also the squishiest boss in the entire dungeon. This thing just falls over. The only way to make it take a long time is to play Scholar. But like even a healer with no strength will kill the ads before they do their self-destruct. So I don't know, like this thing it's a big nothing. Like what is this? It's like a fate boss. The antlion. I put him in annoying. I think the only times I've ever died to this boss are from drowning in the sand, which happened 3 times. And the reason that happens is this boss is very visually cluttered. So sometimes I think that, I've dodged off of a rock that had a yellow AoE onto another rock, and I'm fine, but I'm actually drowning in the sand while I'm doing my burst, and that feels bad. And that's just like, yeah, you should pay more attention where you're standing, sure. But overall, kind of visually cluttered. It feels like Melee really gets scuttled on their uptime because of the dive into the sand mechanic, the chaser. Because it doesn't feel like you can greed a GCD after he pops out of the sand and still get away from him in order to not get hit and take a vuln. So he's kind of annoying. He doesn't feel good to fight. He's visually cluttered. Not a fan. Cactus, probably the most exciting boss. Yeah, he has fixed patterns. This is Final Fantasy XIV. That's how the devs work. But the design is charming. The mechanics are. I have fun with them. He can still kill you if you misread, so I think there's still a hazard to him. He's still dangerous. The spinning spine shot mechanic, you definitely usually want sprint for that, so you don't want to use sprint for something else. I don't know. It's just, I think it's a good boss. This guy, Cyclops, annoying. I have died to this boss more than any other boss by probably a big margin, and it's just because of bad clips. That's the main thing. It's not the Octoswipe mechanic, which his Octoswipe mechanic is such an upgrade over the Minotaur boss in EO. Like I enjoy that mechanic so much more at this boss than I do there. So that's great. But like there's so much forced downtime with the way his orbs work. I actually died twice because my job gauge was obscuring the first orb that appeared for his donut orb pattern, and that feels bad. It just the job gauge was like completely over it, and it made me move my job gauge and shrink it, but that just felt kind of bad. But no, I've definitely had clips where I'm like doing the lateral dodge or something like that, and I get clipped, and it's like, well, crap. I thought I was like fine. So I don't know. He's very unforgiving. Is the main thing. Is a slight misposition, and it can be curtains. So he's not necessarily hard, and he's not visually cluttered like the Antlion, but yeah, he doesn't feel great to fight. The Coral. This boss is relatively fun. I'm not afraid of it at all. I guess that's true of all the bosses in this tier. It was fun to figure out good positioning for the static orbs, the blue lightning, so that no matter what AoE pattern the boss followed up with, you still had place to dodge. Because depending on where you park the boss, sometimes you can actually create you can have a bad pattern and have nowhere to go. So that was fun to figure out. It's very consistent for me. It's in my PT guide, and it does give me the willies that I need to pay attention to my debuff. I have to do that because I will die if I don't. So I think it's fairly fun. Yeah. This is the boss I've probably like never died to solo. Yeah, I don't think I ever died to this thing solo. That's saying something because I died to the 30 boss before by not respecting the chaser because it was at like 0.1% and I was on Scholar and I was thinking my GCD would kill it and the chaser went off. But no, this boss is very easy to be consistent on. I think his learning curve isn't too high, but it is intimidating at first. I think it's reasonably fun. I don't hate it. It is very tanky though. Uh, gosh. Malakota is. This guy's boring. I'm sorry. This guy's real boring. Um, like, how many times did I die to him solo? I died to him when I was greeting. Because he was at. I thought he was one GCD from death, and I thought I was in a safe spot, and I was wrong. So I had to I got a raising, and then it popped Bark Bomb, and it was fine. But did I die to him any other time? I think it was just that. Yeah. It feels like he's missing something. Like, unlike some of the other bosses, he doesn't have anything that's irritating, which is kind of good. But he also doesn't have anything that's really like threatening. Like his mechanics aren't visually cluttered, which is good. Um, but there's not variations that terrify me. Like there's a potential bad pattern with the 80 boss if you park it weird for static orbs. There's kind of the nerve check of doing your debuff correctly. There's the nerve check of doing the ads correctly for the 10 boss. I think it's kind of easy to do a misread and stumble on the cactus. Um, but this guy, like, I just don't think he's all that threatening. And also, you probably have a raising running when you get to him. Or at least I always did, because I use raisings on this floor. Um, and it's really common to have a spare bark bomb in my pocket. So if the worst does happen, I'll just get up, pop steel, pop bark, and just let the fairy carry him off. So like he's really non-threatening. Um, like once you know how to read his mechanics, I think it makes him boring enough that I'm never threatened by him when I get to him. Um, and he just has a lot of hit points, so sometimes I just use a bark bomb just because I just want the fight to be faster. And then finally, 99. I will say this: I'm not a fan of bosses on the last floor, and the reason is I believe it affects Palmator design. So even though this boss has fun and interesting mechanics, and it was very nice of them to give us a practice mode for the fight, it does kind of make it easy so that you don't have any terror getting to this boss and worrying about doing it correctly. Like for Palace of the Dead, if you could just have practice mode and practice Behemoth as much as you want, it takes a lot of the terror out of it. Anyway, what I feel like this boss does, because it has so many hit points, it forces the devs to design a Pomander that gives you a assistant minion that does a lot of damage, like Bark Bomb. Because it's for solo runs, it's basically a necessity. And I think that's also the case in EO. Having a 99 boss, you kind of need Onion Knight in order to get through that boss, unless you just want to be there for a very long time. Doga's fine too, but Doga does, take longer. So I feel like the existence of 99 bosses leads to the design of palms like Onion Knight and Bark Bomb that are there to help solo players get through bosses without taking absolutely forever. And so that's why I feel like this boss deserves to be back at the drawing board. So as interesting as the boss fight might be, it changes the design of the Palmander system. And, I already said that last level set is pretty boring.